The true story of what abducted Ida Mae may never be known. Hi, I'm James Willows, and my dad was a Montana homesteader. I was raised in the little wild hamlet of Hungry Horse, Montana all my life. Since my dad was a rugged homesteader, I had a really interesting childhood. He traded with some Blackfeet for a little fox they had found in its den, and so I had a pet fox when I was young. He allowed me to adventure down by the river even from like age 5. So I've spent a lot of time in the rugged country of Montana. And I also run a huckleberry business, so that requires me to have about 180 mountain people picking wild huckleberries for me all summer long. And I've heard some fascinating stories from these full-time mountain men that pick huckleberries for me. Several of them appear in my Bigfoot documentaries telling of their sightings of the Bigfoot. If you haven't seen those, they are called Incredible Bigfoot Documentary 1, 2, 3, and 4 was just released 9 days ago, and it's already got 85,000 views. You don't want to miss it, because it even shows the video of a juvenile Bigfoot leg. Robert Service wrote a poem I love called The Cremation of Sam McGee, and it starts out, "The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the strangest they ever did see." And the story I'm about to tell you is maybe one of the strangest, most fascinating tales I've ever heard in my life in Montana. In July of 1955, around Lee Creek and Lee Lake, it's spelled Leigh, and this is Lee Lake right behind me. There was a logger who was camped with his wife and 8 kids on Lee Creek. He had a number of tents set up to accommodate all the 8 kids, and a couple of the older kids were kind of in the back of the tent, while little 2-year-old Ida Mae Curtis was toward the front of the tent. The older kids said they saw a bear wander by the opening of the tent and grab little Ida Mae and cradle her in its arms like this and head out. Of course, they were hysterical and rushed to their parents and told them what had happened. Their mother was frantic, Emmy Curtis and the dad, and they of course called the sheriff and got the authorities involved in the search. She was abducted at 7 p.m. and over 400 armed volunteers from the Libby Mountain community came out to search for her because they knew that this was an area that Glacier National Park trapped problem bears in and around the park and then released them in this rugged area of the Cabinet Mountains. A pouring downpour came, and these volunteers searched all night frantically to find little Ida Mae, and they couldn't find her. But at 3:30 p.m., they found her only 30 yards from the campsite in kind of a makeshift shelter of cedar slabs. She was unharmed, even her dress was dry, and when she was discovered, she came to her father and said, "Daddy, bear, big, big bear." She said she did not feel threatened and that she was cuddled and even fed berries. Now, I talked to my buddy Stamper, who is a huckleberry picker from Libby, and he knows that lake, and I asked him if he's heard of this and if he knows any details of this abduction. He said no, but I've fished and picked huckleberries up around Lee Lake over 100 times. It's a cool spot because you can camp, you can fish for small trout, and you can pick huckleberries. Notice the little gal told people that whatever kind of hairy creature abducted her was feeding her berries, and they were probably huckleberries. Another interesting fact about this disappearance is that the people who had seen little Ida Mae before she was abducted said that her shoes were dirty. Now, they brought 2 bloodhounds from the Deer Lodge prison and had them involved in the search. And it seemed like from what the bloodhounds said that whatever it was went into the stream for a while and then came out because they lost the scent. Her mother said she prayed all night long for her daughter's return, and indeed she was returned, and I've heard that this gal is still alive today. Now, I believe this photo that is appearing right now as I speak is the shelter that Ida Mae was discovered in. Is it kind of curious to you that this shelter has purposeful construction? Bells immediately went off in my head because I interviewed a Montana mountain guy who showed me a structure that he believes a Bigfoot inhabits near his area. And I found that the type of construction is very similar. Here is that structure. They said they found some similar Bigfoot dens as the one in my show over by Superior.
Pretty much, I keep hiking around, mushroom picking, huckleberry picking, and just hiking in the woods. And I keep finding these dens.
And she was saying her auntie or something saw one over in Superior.
Yep. Yeah, both my, they seen one in Superior running up the mountains. Possible Bigfoot den. It's weird because it's a bum shelter.
What?
But it has bones in it. That's what's crazy.
Let's put in the bones in. Do I?
Well, no, there's more because of Bo, but those 2 bones before he threw them in were in there when I walked up.
Now, Sheriff Frost did not buy the story that a bear had abducted her. So when he came to her, he said, you know, come on, it couldn't have been a bear that abducted you because bears don't do this. Are you sure it was a bear, or was it a human, or maybe a hairy human? Little Ida could only say, bear, big bear. You know, she's 2. And yet the official report of the incident said that maybe she just wandered off and got in that little shelter. And come on, now what's the odds of that? But because I have interviewed 39 people face to face who said they had Bigfoot encounters, I am not ruling that out, because another interesting detail emerged when Ida was questioned more. She said, chi-chi, chi-chi. That's a word for breasts. And if it had been a Bigfoot carrying her like this, she could have easily been near the Bigfoot's breasts. Now, I have had over 10 close encounters with bears. I've been treed by a bear. I had a grizzly charge me at super close range. You can see it on YouTube under Charged by a Grizz. And something in this story stands out as super strange to me. Ida did not have any scratches, scrapes, other than just maybe a minor bruise or a minor scrape. Is that the doings of a grizzly bear, or even a black bear, taking her through the creek, up and over a little ridge and into this shelter and being with her all night long, and she doesn't have a scratch? You tell me what you think in the comments below. But as for me, I've got more questions than answers. If I had to wager a guess, I would say a bear thought she was cute and in Tarzan-esque fashion abducted her to raise her as her own. But that doesn't explain how the den would have been constructed or how the creature would have fed her berries, because obviously the bears couldn't feed her berries. I don't think even the sheriff ruled out Bigfoot because he asked her, was it a hairy human? I will say that I interviewed one of the most credible Bigfoot testimonies from a reservation in Washington. And that this gal, after telling me of her sighting, told me that her tribe would guard the entrances to their teepee because Sasquatch would steal into camp and steal babies. But if the 2 older kids said it was a bear and Ida herself said it was a bear, it was probably a bear. Well, here's a black bear up in a tree. Pretty cool. Now, I forgot to tell you another little detail. There was another witness in the campground that said that they saw a bear kind of walking strange on just 3 legs with Ida in its paw. This story did garner worldwide attention, and if you Google it, it'll come up all over the place. I Googled it and I found it in a newspaper in Australia, and also in the Spokane paper, the Spokesman Review. And the paper said specifically that the mother prayed all night. Could it have been that the creature did indeed have intentions of consuming the tasty morsel, but that the mother's prayers kept them at bay, kind of like Daniel's life and prayer kept the lions from consuming him in the lion's den? The true story of what abducted Ida may never be known, but I will say that David Politis, the former police detective that now documents many cases of strange and weird missing person accounts, did a program on this same incident that I've linked below, and when Mr. Ballin saw it, he thought, wow, that's strange and mysterious. I'm going to include it in my series about strange disappearances in the forest. So I put that link in there for you as well. I have an extremely unique window into Montana wilderness occurrences and into the Bigfoot sightings, which are numerous in Montana. So I'd encourage you to subscribe and put on the notification bell so that you don't miss it when I share about these mysteries from the Montana mountains. Thank you.